mentioned maybe this is partly snake bitten from the playoffs, and you're just a little upset about the Bucs last year, or maybe there's a good reason to be a little bit lower on Mr. Tom Brady, the GOAT himself. You know me. I think last year we had a conversation about Brady. As a Patriots fan, I'm not overly bitter about it. I love seeing this guy still balling out at a high level. And until I see him off the field, I have no doubt he's going to continue to sling. But are you worried a cliff might be coming, or what's your concern with Tom Brady here as an overpriced guy?
Yeah, that's it. We might have had pretty much the same conversation last year. It's basically just the QB actuarial tables and the age risk at that age. And the fact that, now at this age, 45, I think the only other quarterbacks to have started a game. Well, at 45 for sure, I think Vinny Testaverde. Yep. He started like 6 with the Panthers at this age. I think maybe Doug Flutie and Steve DeBerg had starts at this age, but it was like one starts in the last years of their careers. So yeah, Brady is like sailed off the edge of the map here and is totally in uncharted territory. Obviously, DeBerg and Flutie are not Tom Brady. Different cat entirely. This guy takes pretty good care of himself. But, like we saw Brett Favre, another Hall of Fame quarterback, have that great year where he almost took the Vikings to the Super Bowl. And then he hit the wall at 100 miles an hour the next year. Like he just completely lost it. And, we've just seen that happen with some other actually good quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, his last year in the Broncos, like his team carried him kicking and screaming to a championship. Like that wasn't Peyton Manning, like bringing home the title in his last year. Like he was terrible that year. Mm-hmm. So other really, top 10 all-time quarterbacks have lost it very quickly at a much earlier age. So that's the risk here. And I think after what Brady did last year, people are not, like they're kind of blind to the risk. And really, it's not like people are pushing it too hard on ADP. He's like QB 12, QB 11 now. Like it's not going to torpedo you if he misses. You can get someone else on waivers. But I don't know. I guess to me, it's just a guy who maybe people might go a little earlier for. I've been in best balls where he's gone like 8, 9. To me, I think there are better bets there than him. But, I can see the counter arguments with that. Brady's pretty much proven every doubter ever wrong about anything. So,
yeah, that's that. I'm going to be one of those guys that until he hangs him up, and once I see that the crash could happen, I really don't know if we're going to ever see it with Tom. I feel like he might recognize like this is it. What else do I need to do? I mean, what else does he need to do? I don't know at this point. The one thing that would worry me about fading him is. He finished last year as the PPR QB8, had a very solid season, 2nd in attempts and completions, 3rd in yardage, 2nd in pass TDs. So he did all that. The argument against him, I guess, is the fact that he only finished PPR QB8 with such great passing numbers because of that the lack of any type of rushing ceiling. I do hate that in my QB to have 0 rushing ceiling at all. I get that. But what would worry me about fading him is he had all those great marks, and for, half the season, 3/4 almost, there was so much talk about how bad of a fit he was. The deep ball, Bruce Arians, no risk it, no biscuit. Brady's just doesn't have the deep ball anymore. He's overshooting all his receivers. It just isn't a good marriage. But after the bye, whatever it was clicked. This guy went nuts, and we saw it carry over throughout the playoffs. It seemed like they finally married, whether it was Brady took over, who knows what happened, but they finally got on that same level, and that offense just was dominant the rest of the way over the regular season and in the playoffs. And if that carries over and they just do that all season, I mean, he was the QB4 in fantasy those last few weeks and dominant in the playoffs. It could be just a year of that. Unlikely. But it does seem like they finally found some ground. So I'd be wary. I'm on the train, obviously, again, as a homer of New England. I'll never doubt and fade Brady until he gives me a reason to. So we will see on that one. This one's tricky because I put for my overpriced QB, Pat Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying he's my number 1 QB. Anybody who doesn't have him at number 1 would be foolish. You'd lose your credibility. You're just trying to clicks. I'm not saying here Pat Mahomes is not the best option to have at QB in fantasy. What I am saying is I do not think he's this huge tier above guys like Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. who are going about 20 to 30 even picks later than him. To me, Mahomes is right in that same tier as these guys fantasy-wise. We've seen all of those guys have cheat code crazy, seasons, games, all that stuff. I don't see him being that significantly better fantasy-wise, at least, than those guys. But you're now taking him in the late round 2, early round 3, where guys like Gibson, Calvin Ridley, DK, Mike Thomas, these elite, number 1 receivers, these huge upside running backs, Hilaire, who I was talking about earlier, on the same team. The opportunity cost at that point for a QB who I don't think is that significantly above a Dak, who averaged more fantasy points per game, but goes, 30 picks later. I'm missing out on, a Thielen, a Kupp, a Myles Gaskin if I take Dak, Lamar, who I think could really rebound with Rashad Bateman now there. I'd rather, if I'm going for elite QB, and typically the argument for me is just I always wait on QB, opportunity cost, supply, demand, and I still probably would take that approach. But if I was going to go early on QB, if I really wanted that elite QB production, then I would much rather take a guy round 4 of a Lamar, a Dak, and pass up on a Thielen and a Cooper Kupp instead of taking a Mahomes and going my shot at a Ridley, a Gibson, and those type of talents. So that's where I'm coming at of him being overpriced, not in terms of his position. He's still number 1 QB, but in terms of my big board. And when I'm looking at what I have to take, what I have to pass up on to take Mahomes, I think it's just a no-brainer. I will not own Mahomes in a single league this year if that price is the same. Am I nuts, or what are your thoughts on kind of that argument there?
He is my number 1 QB, but in overall rankings, I think I have him 39th in single QB leagues, which is early 4th round. So I completely agree with everything you just said.
Yeah. It's just that opportunity cost. I mean, as good as he is, the best real life player we might ever see, just fantasy wise, that opportunity cost is far too much. You have him ranked right where I think I have him at 40, like right where I have him ranked as one of the most overpriced. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.